What if we stopped trying to just fix the art world and instead just rebuilt it from the ground up? That's the big idea behind Neurovisionary, a project that's all about reimagining the arts sector, from the inside out. Let's really dig into this quote for a second, because it gets to the absolute heart of the problem. So often, we treat inclusion like a patch, an afterthought. You've got your museum, your gallery, all set up, and only then does someone ask, okay, now how do we tweak this for one specific person? But what if that's completely the wrong question to begin with? Neurovisionary comes in and says, hang on, we shouldn't be adapting things afterwards, we should be starting over. They are totally flipping the script on how we think about creative spaces. And that brings us right to our first point, the problem with the status quo, with the way things are now. Inclusion is so often just a checkbox exercise, something to tick off a list instead of being the very foundation of the design. And this slide just lays out the difference perfectly. On one side, you have the old way. You adapt everything after the fact, and there's this rigid hierarchy, right? The researcher and the researched. But then look at the neurovisionary way. Design is done with and by neurodivergent thinkers. The expertise is found right within the community itself. So let's move on from the problem and get into the solution. Let's look at how this all builds into the project's core philosophy, which is all about designing a completely new foundation, right from scratch. Now, what's so fascinating here are these core principles. First, inclusion isn't an individual fix. It's a collective redesign of the entire system. Neurodivergent people aren't just subjects to be studied, they are paid co-researchers. And, maybe most importantly, they're in the driver's seat. It's about completely dismantling those old power dynamics. Okay, so how does this all work in the real world? That brings us to the project's really unique methodology, where the act of creating, of making things, is the research. This whole concept is called making as research. And the key thing to get here is that the workshops aren't just to gather data for some boring report. No, the art itself, the drawings, the stories, the prototypes they build, that is the research. It all has its own cultural value right then and there. And this gets really practical in the workshops, broken down into 3 concrete steps. It starts with visual mapping, where participants literally draw out their experiences in art spaces. Then they move into design fiction, dreaming up and telling stories about a perfect neuro-inclusive future. And finally, they actually develop prototypes, real physical tools to make sensory environments better. So who's guiding all of this? Well, that would be the Co-Creation Lab. Think of it as the dedicated community that is the absolute beating heart of the whole project. And this lab is backed by a really powerful group. You've got the Willem de Kooning Academy leading the artistic research side of things. Then you have the Mama Foundation providing the actual physical space in Rotterdam. And the Neurodiversity Foundation is there to make sure there's a strong, authentic link to the community. It's this incredible mix of research, practice, and advocacy all rolled into one. I just have to say this again because it is so fundamental to how Neurovisionary works. The people who participate aren't treated like data points or subjects. They are seen as experts. Their knowledge and their time are valued, which means they are compensated. This is just a massive break from how this kind of research is usually done. But you might be wondering, is this project just for neurodivergent people? Not at all. And that brings us to this brilliant idea called the pars pro toto approach. Basically, designing for one part to make things better for the whole. So, pars pro toto is Latin for a part for the whole. The idea is pretty simple, but also really powerful. When you design a system that truly works for a group that's often pushed to the margins, you actually make that system stronger and more welcoming for everybody. And right here, this is the big aha moment. A calm, predictable, sensorily pleasant art space isn't just good for neurodivergent visitors. It's better for parents with young kids, it's better for older folks, and honestly, it's better for anyone who just wants a break from our chaotic world. This isn't a zero-sum game, it's a win-win for everyone. Okay, so this all sounds amazing, but it's not just some abstract plan floating around. It's a real, concrete invitation. It's a call for you to help build this new future. So, who is this for? Well, are you a neurodivergent artist? Or maybe you're a student at the Willem de Kooning Academy or somewhere else? Or do you work in the arts and culture sector and you want to be part of the change? If you said yes to any of those, this is for you. And this is a real thing, happening in a real place. The workshops, the meetings for the Co-Creation Lab, they all take place in the welcoming and accessible space at the Mama Foundation, right there in the heart of Rotterdam. And so we end with the one big question that this is all about. It's a question that really sums up the whole mission, but also inspires us to act. I mean, just imagine it for a second. What would the art world actually look like if it was truly designed from the very first brick by everyone for everyone? That's the future Neurovisionary is trying to build.